we were debating about the educational system over there, so I didn't realize that so many of you snuck in. Okay, now I'm a bit scared. Is everybody having a fantastic weekend? I know I am! Who's having a fantastic weekend? This guy! I messed that up. So my name is Swaile. I'm a voice actor from Vancouver. I'd like to say this is my first time here. It's actually the farthest east I've ever been in North America. So I'm having a blast. The sun came out for a little bit, which is good, because the rain is reminding me way too much of Vancouver. You've been. Yeah. Thank you. Good night. Were any of you at my panel yesterday? Did you have fun? It was weird, wasn't it? Yeah. My panel yesterday was called Swaile Show and Tell. So that's what I did. I had my laptop and I was showing a bunch of stuff and telling ridiculous stories and whatnot. This panel is called Voice Acting 101. I left my program in the hotel, so all I have is the schedule, which doesn't cut me out. So this is basically our question and answer type panel. So if you guys have questions about the business or about shows that I've worked on or any of that kind of stuff, we're going to try and answer some of those questions. Not necessarily correctly or accurately, but in a prompt and courteous manner. So maybe I should start by mentioning some of the shows that I've worked on in case some of you guys have maybe seen some of these shows, so we can get on the same page. Does that sound like a plan? I'll try and do this quickly. This could take an hour. Okay, I'm going to go back, way back. The very first, okay, let me tell you about how I got into voice acting, if you care.
Yeah!
You care?
Yeah!
Okay, so I kind of got into theater a bit when I was in elementary school, mostly because of my sister. I have a sister, her name's Tracy, and she's a year older than me, and I got jealous. She got bit by the acting bug, and it's inadvertently bit me as well at the same time, I guess, because we're family, we share the same blood and whatnot. Very tasty. That's weird to say. So she got cast in some theater shows in elementary school because we had this really great music teacher that used to put on productions for the entire school to take part in. And at one point they needed an actress because the kid that was in grade 6 or 7 or something was really short. And so all the girls in his grade were like a foot taller than him. So they went a couple grades down to try and find a girl that could, perform lines and whatnot. They picked my sister. Now, when I got into high school, she got mixed up with a place called the Vancouver Youth Theatre, which was kind of a cool little organization. They would cast like a troupe of kids and play-build a show and then kind of tour it around and whatnot. I saw her doing that and I got all jealous. So, oh, Dad, I want to try that too. So I auditioned for the theater and I got in, and eventually I got into the same production she was in, so we were touring around together for a little bit, which was pretty cool. It was a long story. Okay, so then there was an acting agency that was right across the street. They were pretty smart. They kind of watched the kids that were coming through the theater, and they approached me and my sister at one point and asked if we wanted to join their agency. And so we saw Oscars in our future and everything, right? Like, yes, please. They said they'd start sending us out on auditions for, movies and TV shows and commercials and things like that. So that's what I started doing. So theater, then on-camera work, and then through that, I got a call from the agency at one point, and I had my very first audition for a cartoon. And it was a show called My Little Ponytails. Really? Nice. And I got it. And so I played the character of Ace in My Little Ponytails, and he was a badass pony, which is kind of an oxymoron, I understand. He was the meanest of the ponies on that particular show, and he had a soccer ball as well. And from there, it kind of went. I started working on some other North American cartoons, and then eventually had my very first audition for an anime series, which was a show called Ranma 1/2. Oh, there's a moose here! No way, you look awesome.
Aww.
Shabu, when did your face become so hairy? That's cool. Sorry, I'm a little starstruck now. I haven't seen a moose in a long time. You look awesome. Okay, so that's kind of how I got into it. So whenever I get the question, how did you get into voice acting, my answer is usually by accident, because it's kind of true. But I've been very fortunate over the years. I've got to work on some pretty cool shows. So Ranma was my first anime series. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, there are any Gundam fans? No Gundam fans? So the first Gundam series that I got to work on was a show called Gundam Wing. I played Catra in that. And that it's actually cool because Gundam, oh, you bought it? Do they have another one? I was going to wait till Sunday. I was like, you know what, if it's still there on Sunday, I'm grabbing it. So good on you. Good on you. I hope it takes you a month to put it together. That's you do it for a living? Yeah. You build your life. We'll build Gundam models for food. Yeah. That sign would be better than free hugs for sure. Cool. Okay, well that box that you stole from me takes me to my next Gundam series, which was Mobile Suit Gundam, the original Gundam series, where I played Amuro, which was pretty sweet. Can I keep the model inside if I say that? Yeah, no, I love you, absolutely. Okay, so let's stick with the Gundam game. So, Mobile Suit Gundam, Gundam Wing under my belt. It's because of Gundam Wing that I got invited to my very first convention. I didn't even know these things existed. And so I was kind of blown away. Luckily, it was in Chicago, and I had some really good voice actor guests that kind of showed me the ropes, because I was all wide-eyed freaking out. And I had some really good people like Freeman and Tiffany Grant kind of show me what to do. Instead of like hiding in a corner and like, rocking back and forth and being terrified. It was also that same convention where I learned what Yaoi was. We started? This is an 18+ hour, right? Okay, this is the tape story. Okay, so it's like, I think it was my first, no, this might have been my second convention where they had all the Gundam Wing voice actors there. And I think this was in Boston or something. And so it was, a setup like this. They made it a big production, so we were kind of behind the curtains waiting backstage, had no idea what was going on out here. And then they kind of asked us to go stand in center stage and whatnot. And then they pull the curtains and everybody goes nuts, and it's really sweet. So then we all go and we sit down. And we start conducting this question and answer panel and whatnot, and it's all going around. I'm very excited. It's a lot of fun. And there's like murmuring. And so we're kind of looking around, not thinking too much of it. Okay, we're answering questions and doing all that. And then eventually somebody pipes up and goes, okay, can I get you guys to stand up? So we're like, yes. Okay, Herbie, I need you to go over there. Scott, you move 2 chairs over. Mark, come down here. Ted, if you can, and Brad, sit right there. So we all kind of do our musical chairs thing. Okay, right? We sit down, the whole place goes nuts. We're very confused at this point.
Oh, God.
And then it was explained to me that they had sat us in our Yaoi parents. I think there's some photos to prove that story. And if you look at the looks on our faces, we all know what it is. Gundam Seed. I got a story about Gundam Seed. So I played Kiarka in Gundam Seed. Now, when I went into audition for Gundam Seed, I had already worked on Gundam Wing and Mobile Suit Gundam. So they really didn't want to cast me in Gundam Seed. So they brought me in because they're very nice people, and they said, okay, so Brad, you've worked on Gundam before. I said, yeah, I've worked on 2 series. I love it. Big robots, kicking butt. It's very cool. Awesome. So all your instincts towards a character in the Gundam world, do the opposite. So instead of being young and energetic, I was dark and brooding. Nervous restructured, calibration set, it'll move. And I got to say, damn. Okay, so then Gundam Seed Destiny came along. Yeah! And Yark lived. Spoiler, Yark lived. So he came back, and they also gave me another character named Owl. So that was cool. And I thought, by that point, there's no way I was going to get a chance to work on another Gundam series. And then Gundam 00 came out. Yeah! So I go into audition for Gundam 00, and they really didn't want to see me. But I can whine pretty good. I just said, okay, Brad, come in and audition. So I auditioned, and they had they didn't want to cast me at all. And I was hearing from one of the producers afterwards when we started working on the show that they were listening to the audition tapes and whatnot. And I guess they hear, hi, this is Brad Swaile, ready for Stetson. And they go, and then they listen to it, and they look at each other afterwards and, oh crap, that's Stetson. So I was pretty happy about that. Okay, let's bang through some of these other ones. Kimba the White Lion. That was cool for me. Okay, for those of you who haven't seen Kimba, let me sum up the entire series. It goes like this. Just forest. Thank you. That's what Kimba does. He runs around and gawks over how gorgeous the forest is. Okay, a little weird down here. Dragon Drive? No. Infinite Revives? No. Tokyo Underground? No. Project Arms? No. The Soul Taker? I'm going with obscure stuff. Based on Ikoku? No. Yeah, we got one. Go ahead. Okay, we'll make this easy on you. Hamtaro? I love Hamtaro, man. For those of you who have seen Hamtaro, I played Maxwell on Hamtaro.
And a friend, Stacy Bonjour. She was like an angel. If she was an arrow at you, it makes you all shmuggy-wuggy.
Okay, and for those of you who have seen it, pretty much every shot of Hamtaro is a whole bunch of hamsters in the shot, right? So when you're recording it, you have to kind of look on the little tiny screen that you're looking at and pick out your character and try and match his little mouth pops and whatnot. And it was really hard for everybody else in the cast because all the hamsters look very similar. And then there's Maxwell. Hamster, Maxwell. They did hand the entire show the most misshapen ears, but I was confounded, which made my life a lot easier. Video Girl Ai. Oh, yeah, right on. Saber Marionette J. Yeah! Right. Ooh, this is a weird one. Argina. Yeah. Shakuga Mashana. Hey, yo. Nice. Hikaru Nobu. Okay, this is one that I like and nobody else cares about. Transformers Energo. You're all my new best friends. I was psyched because it was Transformers, right? I grew up with Transformers and I got to work on a Transformers show. And now I was the kid on the Transformers show, but not like all the other kids that I remember in the Transformers world who just like rode shotgun and Bumblebee and stuff. Like, I actually got a cool suit and an Energon sword, and I could say it's Energon, and I fight alongside the Transformers, so I was psyched. And I got a couple action figures out of the deal, so yeah. Okay. Now, this show, I doubt anybody's ever heard of, but it was one that I really enjoyed. Dragon Ball Z. Yeah! Oh, you have heard of It's very cool. And it's like Teen Gohan, so when he really grows up and starts kicking butt. So that was a cool series to work on too, because Dragon Ball was already huge in North America, and I was psyched about it, and then I got a call, you have an audition. Oh, what's it for? Dragon Ball Z? Dragon Ball Z? Yeah, it could be Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z? I had like little cousins and things that were freaking out when I told them I was a Dragon Ball Z. I got so of course, I go in for like my first session, I got my Dragon Ball Z poster, and I'm leaving it there, the entire cast to sign and stuff, so I give it to my family and whatnot, and they're like, oh! You know? Kind of a big deal. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I'm totally out of order. Oh! Black Lagoon. Ooh, that's a violent show. I got such a crush on Remy. I was at a convention last month in Chicago, and we actually got to do the world premiere of the first 2 episodes of the 3rd installment, which I think is coming out in August or something. Which was awesome. It's violent as hell. Spoiler alert.
I don't know.
I got to see Remy in a state of undress. Something to look forward to for you perverts out there. Okay. Mega Man, NT Warrior. I haven't heard about Mega Man. Like, nobody's really said much about Mega Man in a while. And then yesterday, it was Mega Man. So I'm all stoked about Mega Man. Now I'm really upset we didn't finish off the entire series. Jacket! Mega Man! Alright! Download! A little side note, and thank you for the sweet. So I played LAN in Mega Man, and I also got to play Cross Fusion Mega Man, which was, again, very cool for me because it meant that I got more action figures. Which is really how I, quantify success. How many action figures do I have? That's why Dragon Ball Z has been very good, because there's like a million different versions that go on. So it's like, oh yeah, I got 30 action figures. It's only one character in one show, but still, 30 action figures. Come on. Speaking of action figures, okay, here's another series. It's not anime, but it's one of my favorites. It's called X-Men Evolution. I'm glad you got that, because I love it. She's the Fozzie dude. I'm just gonna bake it in the morning. No!
Sorry, I dropped my mic.
But again, it was kind of a short-lived series. Although we did 4 seasons and 1 too many seasons got canceled.
That's my favorite.
But I got 2 action figures out of the game. I got the Blue Fuzzy Elf version, who was super articulated. So I had him hanging on like the rearview mirror in my car for a long time. And then he turned from blue to like a browny purple because the sun just took him. And then his torso fell off. Oh, sorry, how painful, Gert. It's okay. But the other one was the human form version of him. And it had the best color change technology that I've ever seen. Because, he had like the pale face and whatnot. And then you dunk his head in cold water, and boom, it's blue. Just like that. Like that, right? And then I'm like, okay, well now I've ruined the toilet. Now he's got like this blue face. Wait a sec. It went right back. It was magic. It was witchcraft. And it's cool. Okay, forget about this. Let's do, okay, well, I'm going to mention one more. Inuyasha. I played a very pivotal role in Inuyasha. Episode 8, I believe. I was Nobunaga. Thank you. I was upstaged by that monkey too, so. Yeah. But there's like a million episodes in that series, and I got 1. The most important one, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not going to keep going down the list. You can IMDb this later, whatever. We talked about some. I'm probably missing a bunch. Do you guys have questions or anything that you'd like to... Yeah.
So I know that the character Elle in Death Note is obviously very strange. What was it like working with the actor Alvin and Juliet?
Ooh, this is an interesting question. What was it like working with KJ to play Elle in Death Note? I have no idea. Here's the thing, working on a show like X-Men, North American cartoon, there's no cartoon. So you get the entire cast in one room. So I got Scott McNeil over there as Wolverine and Kurt Warner Cyclops, and all these incredible actors to feed off of. And we're all in there fighting invisible enemies, and you can see sniffing happening, damping happening, and all that kind of stuff in this little room. But for the anime series, for what they call ADR work, it's one actor at a time. So, because I played Light in Death Note, did I even mention Death Note yet?
No.
Wow, what an idiot. Yeah, I played Light in Death Note also. That's probably the reason I'm here, too, right? So, okay, I forgot to mention that. But because I played Light, I usually go in to record first, so there was nothing to play off. So I would, have my hands on the headphones, and I'd be looking at a little monitor and trying to match Light's crazy mouth flaps. So it wasn't until the series was kind of done, or at least that blocking of episodes was done, where I got to see the other performances kind of mixed in with mine. And Alessandro did an amazing job. He's fantastic. Little footnote story to that. This Vancouver Youth Theater that I was talking about earlier, he was actually in a cast with my sister. And at one point, I think he left the troupe to go and do probably more TV stuff, and they held auditions, and I got in, so I think I kind of was walking in his footsteps a little bit, or walking in his shoes. I don't know how that works. I'm fixing metaphors, and my analogies are all off. But yeah, so I knew of him, but we hadn't really officially, met and chatted and stuff until kind of Death Note. So, and he was fantastic. As far as working directly with him, I have no idea this has been so long. But if we're doing a relay series like North American cartoon, then I will get to work directly with him. Excellent question. And that was a very industry-appropriate question. So, very good. Yes. Go ahead, Steeler. My favorite part in DBZ, playing Gohan, was sitting on that hilltop for 8 episodes. I didn't have to scream at all. And I thought Gohan was pretty good in earrings. No, the coolest part, aside from actually getting cast in that series, and not officially passing out in the studio without screaming, was probably fighting Super Boo. Fight you, huh? I will destroy you. Edited! Sort of. I'll take it. No. There was a question over here, yes?
Could you talk about your experience actually voice acting, working on Gundam 00 at Cessna Say?
Okay. Cessna. Very different than the other Gundam characters that I portrayed. Was lucky enough to be part of those series. Cessna was definitely more dark and brooding and tortured and whatnot. So it was it was cool, but it was also kind of a departure from what I usually do. So it was a bit tricky in that way. One thing that's really hard is when people ask me to do a Cessna line, and they're way over there and they got a camera do the Cessna line. If I do it, you're not even gonna hear it, because it's not like Moose where I can run around going, it's just very cool. It's weird. But it was a cool experience. And again, they didn't want me on that series, so it was even better. Even more sweet. So I can't see you guys at all, so yeah. Yes, you go with me. Yeah. Oh, see, look, I mixed it all up now. I got multiple. Okay, we're going to go you first, then we're going to go on to you. Yeah.
Quick question. One of them would be, what would be the city in Canada with the most voice acting opportunities? And number 2, what's something that you've learned as far as acting technique goes you wish you had known when you first started?
These are good questions. I wasn't expecting such good questions. You're putting me on the spot. Okay, I'm born and raised in Vancouver. It's the only place that I've lived. So I would say that Vancouver probably has the best opportunities for voice acting. However, this is all a big shift right now. When the U.S. dollar started doing this and the Canadian dollar started doing this, that changed the industry quite a bit. Because we live in Vancouver, we're in the same time zone as California. LA would send a lot of work up north because it was cost effective for them to do so. There's also a different structure as far as payment goes. And anime is in a totally different category, so we won't really talk about that in this particular instance. But in the States, a lot of times when they record new North American cartoons, they have to pay the actors residuals. So, you know, if 2 years from now, 3 years from now, the show ends up doing another cycle, they have to pay the actors. In Canada, and in Vancouver in particular, they don't do that. They have a different system. It's called the buy-on system. So they can show X-Men Evolution for the next 50 years, and I won't see a dime from it. So that's an incentive for some producers to come up. Now, all that being said, with the dollar and everything, there's a really great infrastructure in Vancouver. And I've never been to Toronto. I'm assuming Toronto would be a hotbed as well because it's a big, bustling metropolis and whatnot. But I've never worked in Toronto, so I can't really speak officially to it. But in Vancouver, I would assume in Toronto as well, there's a really good infrastructure for film and for animation and TV and commercials and all that stuff. It's been developed when our dollar was down. That we do have some really incredible people working on crews and, you know, engineers and directors and all that kind of stuff, all behind the scenes people that there is work that still comes up here for the talent, and I'm not talking about the on-camera talent or the, you know, recording talent. I'm talking about the talent in all aspects of the industry. But in my experience, Vancouver is still kind of a hotbed for voice work, but it's not what a lot of people think. You know, some people think that everybody that's, you know, on TV doing voice work is a professional, full-time voice actor. And I'm sure all of them wish that was the case, because it's kind of the dream job. But speaking for myself, I mean, I also have a real job, because I like to eat and pay rent. I don't like to pay rent, but I have to, and I do like to eat. So, like any job in the acting world, like, you know, unless you're Keanu or Johnny Depp or whatever, you're getting $20 million a picture. There's no certainties, right? Even working on a series like Rama, which we recorded for like 8 years or something, I was never under contract for that show. So if I moved away, it would have been like, what if somebody else? Or they could have cut me at any time. So there's really no direct stability, unless you end up working on, you know, the new My Little Pony, and it's probably a safe bet they're not going to replace Rainbow Dash anytime soon. That was part one of your question. What was part B? I forgot.
Acting technique-wise, what was something you wish you had known when you first started there?
Ooh, something that I wish I'd known as far as technique goes in the business. I'm all about technique. The method actor. Should have seen me, you know, working up the research for my role as a hamster. I can still take the salt. It's not that good. There's still sawdust in my apartment. It's really hard to find gigantic rules, like floating rules. Make tunnels out of and stuff. I wish I could play more about technique. I sometimes look at the question, what do you use to prepare for a studio session? And I'd like to talk about all these exercises that I do and whatnot. Really what I do is when I'm in my car on the way down to the studio is I put on some tunes and I sing. That's what I do. I sing. Yeah, almost everything, right? Okay, so, or not necessarily when you drive. How many of you sing on the bus? Yeah, that's freaking, right? But it's also kind of dicey when you're in your car because, you know, you're singing away, and for me, it's, you know, I'm trying to develop my instrument, right? So I'm belting it out, and then you get to a red light, and there's cars inside you. So now you're doing I'm singing flamboyantly, but I think I'm yawning at the same time, or my upper lip is really itchy, and you guys can't see that I'm like belting out this, you know, Bruno Mars. So that's something I guess I kind of learned along the way, but that's not really what I should be, you know, saying. Just sing, guys. Just sing. Although we should all sing anyway, right? Okay. If I think of any better answers to that as we go, I'll stick them in there. Okay. Ooh, that's a tough question. My favorite character to play. It seems like I'm poo-pooing all the other characters if I pick just one. So I'm gonna say all of them. Such a cop-out. No, I hate this question. Okay, I'll give you some top ones. I'm not gonna rank them in order or anything. I mean, there's certain series that you get to work on, it's just, yeah, like X-Men. I mean, getting to be on X-Men, getting to play Nightcrawler, probably my favorite X-Men character, and like one of the best superpowers as well, right? You know, I never have to deal with, you know, customs or flight schedules or delays or, you know, no meal service or anything like that. If I could just be awesome. So Nightcrawler's up there. You know, Moose is up there too, because he's my first anime character, and he's crazy. And I'm crazy too. I mean, Light and Death Note, yeah. Like, he counts too. He was like, kind of a departure for me too, because I got to go insane, which is actually really therapeutic. Really good. I think how much money I saved, like, not having to lie on a couch and explain myself to a doctor, because I could just go and be maniacal in a booth by myself. And walk out and be like,
Yeah.
The only rub to that is, okay, so I'm doing maniacal laughter and whatnot alone in a booth with nobody watching, and then I come to a convention and I hear, do the laugh. And I think, oh yeah, I'll totally do there's a lot of you here.
Yeah.
And that's when the cameras come up. Do the laugh! I'm like, okay, well, now it's like any of my family or friends hop on YouTube and like type in my name. It's all like videos of me screaming and yelling and laughing at the camera. And they're all going to think that I'm actually insane. But still, I like one of my favorites. And okay, I'm going to throw Catra in the mix too from Gun and Wing, because seriously, if it wasn't for Gun and Wing and Catra, I wouldn't be here, so. And Maxwell, I'm done. Because I'm hot. Yes. Hi.
Okay, so you said you had a day job. What do you do?
Oh, that's a good question. My day job, I do graphic design and illustration. I run the art department of a print shop. So. You said that's not a day job? No, it's not. No, it sounds, I make it sound more fun than it is. It's really, it's work. It's work. It's not like, it's one thing if I got my sketchbook out and I'm working on my own projects and things like that, that's fun. When you're working on other people's projects and dealing with sales guys and customers and all that stuff, it's work. And it's a lot of holding of the hand, you know, trying to make things happen, stuff. Okay. Yes. Yeah! Ooh, the most difficult character to play so far. That's me, that's my thinking voice. Ooh, that's a good question. It's a great question. They're all so easy. Okay, a tricky one for a bit was Nightcrawler, because, I mean, it turned out fun, but when I first went in, I had a very thick German accent that I was doing, and so we recorded the first episode, and then I got notes from the producers afterwards saying, hey Brad, we changed up that accent a little bit. They were afraid that the younger kids that were watching weren't going to have a clue what I was saying. So instead of him being like the German American, if we make it more like American German type thing, so his accent became very model. It's like there's the stereotypes. When you're thinking about accents, there's certain things that are kind of stigmas within the accent that sells it as a German accent, right? Like turning certain letters into certain other letters. I wasn't allowed to do those anymore because it was just too challenging, right? So that was a bit tricky to kind of dial that in. Even Maxwell from Hamtaro, okay, I kind of cheated with this one. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So I got cast in Hamtaro and I started working on it, but in the first episode, then I was able to kind of hear the other voices in the ensemble. So I kind of changed mine up a little bit. Didn't tell anybody, just kind of did it, and they let me get away with it, which was nice. Just because I didn't want them to sound too much like any of the other characters. I want them all kind of distinct, so I kind of did that myself, and they were okay with it, so that's good. But anytime you play a character in a video game, those are always kind of tough. Has anybody, tell 2 stories. Anybody played a game called Dead Rising 2? It's like zombie killing game. I mean, it's an awesome game. I really loved it. It's a great game that has great replayability. You can customize weapons and all that kind of stuff. I play a character named Slappy, and that is like crazy.
Oh, the crazy mailman?
Wow, I'm being typecast now. I'm learning things about myself. But he's ridiculously crazy. And so if you take that same character and put him in a North American cartoon or an anime series, it sits in a certain place. When you're doing it for a video game, it can be really, really draining because you're delivering every maniacal line a few times and then a few different ways, and then you have all the battle stuff that goes with it. And it's, again, for video games, they usually bring in one actor at a time, so it's you doing all your stuff. So you take 2 breaths, do all your crazy and stuff, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it slightly different way, and you have to do it slightly different timing, because you don't know like where it's going to be placed within the game, so you have to do a short version, a long version, all that kind of stuff. So I worked on another game called Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where I played Jin, who's on the Tekken side, and he's badass, right? So that was kind of a tricky one too, because again, it's a video game performance, but he's also kind of set in that niche where he's dark and brooding. So trying to find battle cries that still have that inner angst and whatnot, without it sounding too cartoony and goofy and whatnot. You know, sometimes it's trying to find balances, which can be a bit dicey. Especially when your voice sounds like this, like, really. Yeah, I'm not lucky enough to be like a Scott McNeil or a David Kay, where they just, they can read a phone book and, my knees buckle. I sound like this most of the time. Hey guys, how are you doing? Okay, more questions. I'm going to try to look towards the back because I can't see you guys. Yeah.
When you're doing voice work, do you interact a lot with the other voice actors? And if so, who's your favorite fellow voice actor to work with?
Oh, pick your favorite character, pick your favorite voice actor. No. Like I was saying earlier with the anime stuff, sometimes I won't even know who my fellow castmates are until the first episode comes out and I can see the credits. So that's always kind of cool. It's like, oh, you're meeting, like I'll meet a voice actor or actress in Vancouver and I'll be like, oh, it's nice to meet you. I think we've worked on like 10 shows together and we've never met before. But on the North American cartoon side of things, you have everybody in the same room, which is great. As far as picking a favorite, I mean, I really can't. I'm very lucky in that the voice talent in Vancouver is really good. Really good. So as much as I hate them because, a lot of times they'll beat me up for roles, when that happens, I can look at who got cast, what's Richard Coxley cast, perfect cast. And I like the people very genuinely. One of the reasons I kind of stopped doing the on-camera work was my skin really wasn't thick enough for it. I was in high school when I was doing this. So I'd be ducking out of class, hopping on a bus, going to auditions for these, commercials or for movies and whatnot. And it was very competitive. I'd have my book bag and everything, and I'd pop out, and there'd be, I'd walk into a room, there'd be 30 people that looked exactly like me, and half of them would have like their stage moms with them, and they'd be like trying to throw me off my game because they wanted to get cast and stuff. I was like, wow, this is too much. Then I started auditioning for animation projects, and it seemed like there was just this camaraderie between the actors, which I had never witnessed before. It felt very much more like a theater environment than it did like the big movie business. So I kind of phased out on-camera stuff, but I'll always do the voice stuff as long as I can get little pockets of work here and there because I love it. I love everybody that's involved. Cast, crew, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to single out any particular voice actors or actresses because they're all aces in my book. Okay, I see a paw. How do you manage a regular job and voice acting? It's tricky. Most actors that you'll meet, not necessarily voice actors, but actors in general, they'll also have night jobs, right? Like that's what there's the cliche that an actor or an actress in Hollywood is basically like a waitress or a waiter or something because you have to be able to eat. Because food is good and good for you. I find. So it's really tricky to have kind of a day job that will allow you to work on voice stuff as well. So I've been pretty fortunate. I've been with the same company since 2000, and I'm technically not an employee. I'm basically on an extended contract, like a contract that will never end. And the reason that we have it set up that way is so that if I say, look, okay, I got to duck out of work for an audition or for a studio session, or hey, I'm going to this really awesome convention the weekend and I'm leaving on Thursday, you know, that type of thing, they can't say no. They have to say, oh, crap. Right? So, I mean, I basically have the type of job, my day job also often extends into nights because as long as I can keep the shop up and running, I'm allowed to kind of make my own hours as long as I can get the work that needs to be done. So it's really, I don't think it's easy to find a job like that, so I've been pretty fortunate. And you make certain sacrifices, you know, like I don't have benefits or anything like that through that job because I'm not technically an employee or whatever, but you find ways to make it work. I mean, I think we all have, we can all prove by being here this weekend that we all have our passions. And it's really hard for us to, you know, put those things aside and not explore them. One thing I've noticed, you know, being at various conventions across North America, is no matter what the state of the economy or just the world in general or whatever, conventions always continue to grow in attendance. I don't think I've ever been at a convention where the previous year they had more people and now it's actually gone down. It seems like they go up every year, which is really a testament to, you know, fandom in general. Us, we love things that we love, and nobody's going to take them from us. Yes!
Yeah! Woo!
I'm going to get off my Apple box now, and we'll go, yeah, over there. I love everybody that's behind it when I'm great. And I can't believe the audience is like blurs of hands, so.
What do you think of Fredericton so far?
What I think of Fredericton so far?
Yeah.
Now that it stopped raining, I think it's awesome. So far, so good. I'm having a really good time. It's great. Like the last convention I was at, which was a couple months ago, there was like 30,000 people there. And this is obviously like a smaller convention, which is great. I mean, it doesn't look small right now because there's so many of you like in all the seats and stuff. But I've actually had time to go and check out panels and things. And, you know, I made a plushie yesterday. It's great. So, I mean, it's kind of nice when you're, and all you guys are so nice to me, too. So, I feel, and, you know, I come out here, this is my first time out here, I don't know anybody. So, I'm like, I'm just going to go and do my own thing, I guess. But, you know, you guys have been so nice. And, there's still waiting plushies and stuff. People are really helpful, and it's great. I love it. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. You give yourself a round of applause. Good. Yes. Are you guys going to try and keep me dead, Jeff? No? Okay. See, now the camera's come on, right? Okay, who's got chips for me? Like I said, I'm a method actor. No, I'm kidding. Okay, can I go?
Yeah!
I'll take a potato chip and eat it. How many times I've been like practicing for spread chips? Stay alive! Yes! Luckily, I really like chips. Oh, thank you. Yeah. What would I say to somebody that wants to break into the business? Run. Now while you still can. It's really tricky, especially, you know, it's different in every area. So what I would say, especially these days, is there's so much information at your fingertips. So take the initiative and do as much exploration as you can. If you live here, see what's happening here. And it's kind of nice that I'm in Canada, because I think I can kind of speak semi-intelligently about this. But there are acting unions throughout Canada. In Vancouver, in BC, we have ACTRA is kind of a national union, actors union, and we have one called UBCP, which is strictly for BC. So they all have websites and stuff. So if you hop on there, they're good sources of information. Now, in my experience, this is just my experience with the industry in general, I have an agent, so I have agency representation, which works out well for me because if a new project's coming up to Vancouver and they're looking to cast, they're usually going to touch base with the agencies first. And so my agent will get a call saying, okay, we have this character, so-and-so, and we're going to give you 4 audition slots on Wednesday. So they'll look through their clientele and say, okay, I think Brad can do this, and I think so-and-so can do this. So those slots are already full. If they do that through all the agencies in town, it's really hard for somebody to kind of come off the street and say, I'm ready to audition now, because it's not often they're going to do these open calls and things. So what I would recommend is check out these union websites and talk to some people that work there, whatever, and they'll usually have a list of reputable agencies in your area, wherever your area is, and then call them up, talk to them. Like when I was getting started, nobody had voice divisions. But now it's very commonplace with all the animated projects that are happening with Pixar and all that stuff, and all the internet work that's happening out there as well. A lot of these agencies have voice divisions, so they'll have voice agents. And the best thing you can do is just pump them for information and see what they can say about what's happening in your area, and go from there. Don't get sucked into thinking, okay, I need an agent to get work, but use them as resources. And if you decide that you want to be, involved with an agency and you want representation, because it's probably the easiest way to get auditions, and that's really what you want to do, is get an audition so you have your chance to shine. Then they're a valuable tool for that. But even if you're in there interviewing with an agency, just remember that as much as you may want to be, on their roster, you're also interviewing them, because they get paid when you get work. So you want to have somebody that's going to be able to, put you in a good position to do that. So, but if you talk to voice actors, almost all of them got in it through different ways. Like I've met maybe 2 voice actors that at one point said, I want to be a voice actor for anime, and actually did it. It's really hard. Like most voice actors started off being actors. Voice acting. If you can do a couple of, impressions of Simpsons characters, that's awesome, but those roles are already cast, unfortunately. So the acting part of voice acting is probably the most important thing, because you want to have, fully fleshed out 3-dimensional characters, not just, oh, I can do a voice. That might get you a couple of gigs, but longevity in the industry is going to be pretty tough. You can do one voice. And in anime in particular, a lot of the roles that I've done, they're not that different from my regular voice. So it's not necessarily the voices that I can do that's getting me the work, it's the portrayal of the characters, because, you can tell that we love our anime characters, and we want them to be fully realized. We don't want them to be...
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's
Sure.
the store like?
What?
What's the store like?
Touche. Do the loud.
Here we go. He's got this. Yeah.
Remember the story I was telling you earlier? About that cheat.
Oh my God.
Are you ready for a while?
Oh my
Three roles that I would love to do that I haven't had a chance to do? Yes. Well, lots, but, some of them have already been done, and it's like, okay, they're perfect. But there is... Okay, I can ask you a question, and I want you all to answer at the same time. I know, for me, if somebody says, what's your favorite song? I have no idea, because I have so many songs that I like. And it's the same with movies. But I do have a favorite movie. So I'm going to ask you guys, and on the count of 3, I want you all to tell me what your favorite movie is, okay?
I don't know.
1, 2, 3. You're all wrong. No, that's cool. That's a good movie. I like it. My favorite movie is a Jim Henson movie called Dark Crystal. Anybody seen it? There's just something magical about that. And I watched it when I was really little, and I guess it's kind of Fizgate. Yeah, I wanted to be Fizgate. But I heard, and this has been kind of going on for a while, that they were going to make a sequel to The Dark Crystal. And it was kind of in pre-production, and then it got squashed somehow. I don't know. But if I could have any part in a Dark Crystal movie, I'm such a fan of the Henson Corporation. I've missed Jim Henson so much. He's one of my idols. And that would be my dream role right now. So I'm kind of happy that it fell apart because I had no part in it. So I'm hoping, like maybe in a couple years, it'll pick up steam again, and by then maybe I'll have brought the right people to get an audition for it or something. That would be pretty cool. Yes. Okay. Sure. Do I have any up-and-coming jobs that I want to talk about? No. There's, like I recorded a video game last week before. The only thing that I can actually talk about, this sucks. No, it doesn't suck. It sucks that this is the only thing I can talk about because it's already established. Black Lagoon, which is coming out, I believe, in August, the third installment. But yeah, the industry has become very secretive, so we have to sign non-disclosure agreements and things when we go, even to audition for projects now. Because with the internet buzz and all that stuff, people are very protective of their properties and don't want anything leaked, especially if they have big preparations. They sink a lot of money and energy into making specific announcements. They don't want me going on Twitter and going, hey, guess what I just came out the studio and worked on. Because if you do that, you're never going to work again. So I've learned to keep my mouth shut. So a lot of times I'll get the question, so are you working on this? I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. Actually happened one time at a convention where I was signing autographs, I think, and there's some Gundam fans that came up, and they gave me a little Setsuna Gashapon figure, and they're like, if Gundam 00 gets, put into English, we want you to play this guy. And I was like, oh, cool. And I couldn't tell them that I had just auditioned for him, like 2 days, seriously, 2 days before. So I'm like, oh, very cool, awesome. Wow, who's this guy? What does he do? Oh, that sounds great. I would love to. And then so I ended up getting cast. I think I got back into town, and about 2 days later, I got a call from the agency, like, yeah, you booked a part. I'm like, is it gonna come below? They're like, yeah. Is it Cessna? Yeah. Woo! The next time I was out there, I think it was in Toronto or something. Next time I was out there, I brought a little figure with me, and I saw those same guys, and I told them they were the reason that I got cast in that series. You guys have any roles that you want me to play? Please throw them at me. Throw them at me. Good karma going out there. To be quite honest, like the voice work's been a bit slow recently, so I've been spending more time at the real job, and I'd love to spend more time in the booth. So, sure. You guys are totally exposing me to the fraud that I am. Yeah. Okay, my research for that audition was watching Indiana Jones. Paying particular attention to the bad guys.
Oh my God!
Has anybody ever seen a British series called Black Adder? Yeah! Okay. Has anybody ever watched the American series House? Yeah! Hugh Laurie, who's the main guy in House, was in this troupe that did the Black Adder series. So a lot of people in America had no idea that he was a British fellow, and a very farcical, comedic actor type person too. But he's brilliant. There's one episode in Black Adder the Second, I think, where there's a torture chamber type thing. I think that's what's going on. And anyway, he's got this ridiculous German. It's Hugh Laurie playing the bad guy.
Oh,
and
God.
so he was kind of my inspiration as well. Yeah, and that's probably why they said, can we dial it down? I'm like, okay, because I'm doing Hugh Laurie being like a, interrogator. Also, like on a side note, my owl from Don't See Destiny is basically me doing all horrible impressions of Cobra Commander from G.I. Joe. I draw inspiration the same way we all do, right?
Oh my God, yes.
I grew up on television and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could switch roles for a day with any character you've played, who would you be?
Oh. If I could switch roles with a character that I've played, who would I be? See, Nightcrawler is an easy one because, there's a lot of the world that I would like to see. And dancing is a lot easier than buying plane tickets. I would not pick Kimba. He runs too much. I like sunflower seeds, but I don't need to be a hamster for a day either. No. Okay, Nightcrawler is kind of winning. Oh, or any Gundam pilot. As long as I have a piece of my Gundam, that'd be pretty sweet too. I would decimate everything though. I'm looking out there now, never give me keys to a Gundam. You're all doomed. You're all doomed. For me, it would be like a video game, Can't be real. I'm going to blow stuff up. You best? Oh, yeah. I've met them. Yeah, no big deal. I know people, man. Yeah, membership has privileges. I think they're a bunch of hacks. No. They're pretty funny. They actually, I've met them on a couple occasions. And I think the second time I was at a convention and they were all there, they asked me if I'd be a part of one of their little videos they were making. So they had this, little thing that they were doing. It wasn't, their dubbing or anything. It was just like a little live action video they're making. I'm like, oh, awesome, man. You guys are a lot of fun. I'd love to be part of it. What would you like me to do? And they said, okay, Brad, so you need to come up here and stand here, and we're going to punch you out. All right. So I walk up there, and I got punched out by one of the members of Team 4-Star. I'm like, okay, how did I do? Great. Okay, now we got another scene that we want to be part of. Okay, cool. Here's going to be my shots, right? So we need to come up here, stand up, and you're going to get punched out by another guy. Okay. It was epic. Trying to make me pass out, aren't you? I can try.
We'll find out.
In a while.
Oh, I knew My childhood.
See, that's more therapy. Okay, little side note about Dragon Ball Z and Kamehameha-ing. Not a real word. So I was working on Dragon Ball Z at the same time I was working on that show I mentioned called Earth Maiden Arjuna, which became Arjuna. So I would do 4 hours in the morning, screaming at the top of my lungs for Dragon Ball Z, and then in the afternoon, I'd go and work on this other series, and I played a character named Chris on that, and he was all, "Why must we fight? Fighting's bad and good." So that was kind of, I think that's probably led me to, Slappy and Light, the craziness, is because, I was like bipolar for very, very conflicting in my head. I've got enough voices in there right now, get a couple more in there, and it's in the room. I'm gonna do it. Oh! Where'd the hour go?
Aww.
More questions?
What?
Yeah, okay. I saw her.
Who has been the most influential person on your voice acting career and why?
You guys ever watch Looney Tunes?
I know where this is going.
Right? He's the king. My God, yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, yeah.
And I grew up watching all those, Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. So And now at the time, you know, when I was that little, I never really realized that that actually is a job too. So it wasn't until, you know, later when I started doing it that I really appreciated it. But also, like I said, I have some really great talent in Vancouver. So, you know, one of the first related cartoons that I worked on was a show called Double Dragon. And Scott McNeil and Michael Donovan were the two main guys. So I'm, you know, pretty young, and I'm watching these guys, and I'm in the same room with them. And that's when I kind of realized, oh, you know, because the only other cartoon I'd worked on was My Little Ponytails, and it was a bunch of kids. Right? So we're just like, talk, 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 talk. But seeing, you know, professionals actually do it professionally really did open my eyes. That's when I kind of look back at some of the cartoons that I really enjoyed growing up, and I appreciate it a lot more. Wally Burr, who directed the Generation 1 Transformers, was art director on My Little Ponytails as well. And he was never in Vancouver. He was the omniscient voice through our headsets. And so it was really creepy, actually, but also very informative. So we're out of time. Oh! There's an auction coming up. It's charity auction, right?
Charity auction and
There's a lot of stuff, the charity auctions, for an awesome cause, so open up your wallets and your hearts. Okay, so they're going to need this room. I do have autographs for any of you who want stuff signed coming up at 5, I think, somewhere. So we can do that. At 5. It's in the hotel, I think. Yes, in the hotel. So, sorry we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming. Go have fun.